Okay, now what we said. So we said last time about Mincha. We're speaking about Tfilas Mincha. And we said that Rabbi Chelbo Amar Ravuna says, Lo ela mizayir adam betfilas mincha. Shari Eliyahu lo na'ana ela betfilas mincha. Person should be careful more with mincha than other prayers. שנאמר ויהי בעלוס המנחה ויגש אליהו הנביא ויגש אליהו הנביא ויאמר וגוימר ענני השם ענני. Right, so we spoke about Yitzchak Avinu, we spoke about the Gemara with Yitzchak Avinu, that Mincha is Keneged Yitzchak Avinu, and we spoke about the Chashivos of Tachnun on Thursday, and we said that what the Tur is saying, I think it's in Reish Lamed Beis, what I was saying last week, that a person wakes up in the morning, Shachris, it's easy to daven. It's easy to daven, a person wakes up, he has a lot of time, free time. Night, it's also easy, it's the end of the day. Mincha is a bit more difficult, you have to stop in the middle of the day, especially in the winter, and you have to stop everything and come to daven. That's maybe why you should be more careful with Mincha. And we also spoke about the times of the dinim. The afternoon, there's more time of Isgabros Adinin, and therefore a person should put more koach into Tfilas Mincha, right, as we spoke last week. Okay, let's go weiter. We're saying that Eliyahu Navi was only answered in Tfilas Mincha. And we said last week also on this page, a lot of Mefarshim are asking, what's going on? Eliyahu Navi, the only reason why it was answered in Mincha, because it happened in Mincha. It was a coincidence, it seems to be, that it was on Mincha. And that's why he was davening in Mincha. It wasn't 10 o'clock at night. Yeah, if it will be 10 o'clock at night, you will tell me, okay, so 10 o'clock at night is very good. So I think what most of them say, the Mefarshim, that Eliyahu Navi knew that in the afternoon is the time of Kshafim. As we said, it's the time of Isgabrus Adinim. And he didn't want the Jewish people to think it was done because of Kshafim. He wanted them to know it's because of Hashem. And that's why he had to daven also Aneni Hashem Aneni, as we said just now, Aneni Hashem Aneni, Aneni Sheteiret Esh Min HaShamayim. Why is he saying Aneni Hashem Aneni? Why the double Lashon? Aneni, answer me, Hashem Aneni. Why twice? So first of all, please help me that the fire should come down from heaven. And number two, Shelo Yomru Ma Yisik Shafim. Because imagine, you will see fire coming down from heaven. What would you imagine? So when you see somebody doing a trick, magic, what do you think? You think it's a magic. It is a magic, right? See somebody flying in the air. I don't know. You see somebody sewing somebody into two. So you think it's a witchcraft. Right? You think it's a magic or something like that. You don't think that there's anything to it, and there isn't anything to it. So Eliyahu Navi was scared that they're going to say, okay, very nice. You brought fire from heaven. Okay, so what? Must be it's a Ma'asik Shafim. That's why I had to say Aneni Hashem Aneni twice. But the Mefarshim say that also because it was in the afternoon. In the afternoon, he didn't want people to say that it was the time which is Mesugal for Shafim, and therefore we didn't want to say that. That's why he had to daven. The Rashba over here on this page, I don't know why they printed the Rashba over here. The Rashba is a biur on the Chidush Agados. The Rashba says in the beginning, listen to this. Mima shelo ya'ale mimcha. Means something that you already know. Liyot bayom uvalayla itim mezumanim liyot bahem eis ratzon. Kasher yesh itim bashana. וכבר הזהירו זה חז"ל, על הכוונה הזו אמרו בתחילה זה הפרק 3 משמע עושה הלילה. לא אומר שהם מוכנים לתפילה. Says the Rashba. Just like we all understand that it's better in a way to daven in Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur, and most probably your davening is going to get greater distance if you're davening on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Purim, Pesach, than if you're davening on when are we today? Vav. Hey. But Friday was Aleph, right? So it's Dalet. So we Dalet. So Dalet. Obviously, when you're davening on Purim, most probably there's more siyata d'ishmaya that your davening is going to be accepted than if you're davening on Dalet Adar, right? Says the Rash, but the same thing is also in the 24 hours. In the course of 24 hours, you also have times that it's better to daven. And it says, that's lo ya'ale mimcha. You know it. It says, you know it. Right? You don't have to think about it. He says, you know it. And now he says, if you look in the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Aleph, which we just did 2 weeks ago, Yechaven l'shaos shemishtanos hamishmaros balayla. Remember, you should aim in your davening at night. Remember in Siman Aleph, yeah? You should try to wake up in the day, in the night, the times when the shifts are changing of the angels. That why? It says the Shulchan Aruch, because that's a greater Eis Ratzon. It's a greater time that your davening is going to be accepted. Says the Rashba, this is our Gemara. This is our Gemara, that's why he's saying that you should be more nizar with Filas Mincha. Because he's telling you the Rashba, you should know, if you need something, wait for Mincha. Put your koichas into Mincha. Daven for it strong in Mincha. Why? Because Mincha, it's the greater time of Es Ratzon that it's going to be accepted. This is the Rashba. Yeah, or Oilam, Amud Oilam. And therefore, this is what the Rashba is saying, and this is something which is important. Let's see. So let's see. I just see now. I want to read it over here. Let's see. It says like this. It says, "Why are you speaking about Eliyahu and you're not speaking about Yitzchak Avinu? Yitzchak Avinu v'yetze lasuach, v'yetze Yitzchak lasuach basad lifnos arev, and there we say it was mincha. Right? The Gemara later on will say it was mincha. It was lifnois erev. So it says da. Even though they were stupid, even though they were stupid, because they were worshipping the idols, right? So in a way they were not so clever, but they were clever enough to understand that everything comes from Hashem. So like the Ramban in Parshas Bo says that some people wanted, like the philosopher says that Hashem created the world and then he went somewhere else. Just like you can't expect somebody didn't take out the rubbish over here. I'm just saying, for example, for a week. So you're calling Ramaphosa. You're calling Ramaphosa and you're telling, listen, my electricity is not working for things. He says, like, come on, I don't have time for these kind of things, right? There's no time for, I don't know where is time for those things, but he doesn't have time for those things. So then you use lehavdil. That's the problem with grasping the greatness of Hashem, because you keep telling me how great it is, and then you tell me that He cares if I woke up 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later. If He's so great, Hashem, so what does He care if I was mechaven when I said shakol niya bidvar or not? That's one of the challenges. And he says that's the philosophers that they say that Hashem created the world and He took away the Ashgacha. And that's what Eov says over there. I'm skipping. And it says that this is what Eliyahu was saying. Ad masa yatem poischim al shtei asifim. Im Hashem hu Elokim, lechu acharav. And if not, so go somewhere else. Im abalu, lechu acharav. Don't make like remember what it's all. ואומנם מסבר מכאן שהם לא שיחלו את השם המיוחד שהוא סיב הסקויל והשם הנקרא השם, אלא ששיחלו במנהיג העולם שהוא נקרא בשם אלוקים, ולכן אמר להם אליהו אם סיבו יסברך משגיח עולם ומנהיגו והוא יהיה לכם לאלוהים לכו אחריו. And if he gave it to avoid הזר, go with avoid הזר. ויעתל בהם אליהו, ליוס ידוע כי הכויחוס כולם, אם יויס משטרם בארץ וחלק אויס המשם יסברך לכל העמים, ישיגו מקרים ודברים בשינוי תנוס. ויסגבר השפל וישפל המסגבר כפי הדבייקים ומבטם כידוע לבעלי הכוכבים כי האלוקים עשה שיעורים מלפניו. Okay, I'm skipping this because now he's speaking a few things which seems to be a bit thing, but let's see if he goes into the back to the mincha. But this is very long. So I'm not going to read the whole thing now. Okay, let's go weiter. Rabbi. So again, we said, Aneni ishtere desh min hashamayim, v'aneni shelo yomru ma'aseh kshaf imem. So this was, Ad Kan was what? About Mincha. Rabbi Yochanan says, Af betfilas arvis. Rabbi Yochanan says, you're right, Mincha is very important, but don't forget Ma'ariv. Ma'ariv is also very important. Tfilas arvis, also very important. Sheneemar, Tikoin tfilasi k'toires lefanecha, mas'as kapai, Minchas Arev. This verse, the Sfardim say, when did the Sfardim say this verse? In Mincha. In Mincha, they say this verse. It says Mincha. But this is what the verse is saying. The verse is saying, Tikoin tfilasi k'toires lefanecha. My tefillah, my davening should be like the k'toires. The k'toires, the incense, right? The k'toires. Mas'as kapai minchas arev, and it should be like the when I'm what I'm bringing to you with my hands should be like the offerings in the evening. Minchas arev, minchas arev. So this is referring to the mincha. It says minchas, but it also says the erev. So you can say that it's also going on the mincha, on the offering. Mincha is an offering, but you can also say it's going on the night. So the Maisa, this Gemara now is taking it to the Ma'ariv. And the Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan says, you should be very careful also in Ma'ariv. And according to what we just read in the Rashba, it's very good. Because the Rashba is telling you, what are the Chacham is coming to tell you? They're coming to tell you that just like during the year, you have Rosh Hashanah, you have Yom Kippur, you have Purim, you have Pesach, you have Rosh Chodesh, you have Shabbos, you have times to daven, which is better than davening on Monday afternoon in Daled Adar, which is not bad. Yeah, which is not bad, but there is better time to daven, right? So too, it reminds me of a story that the Chazon Ish, he once went to Dvinsk. He once went to Dvinsk and he wanted to see the Or Sameach. He wanted to daven the Or Sameach. And he was a young guy, he was very young, the Chazon Ish. He wanted to daven thing. And he said that if you would see somebody like this davening on Yom Tov or Shabbos, he would say, okay, he wouldn't be so impressed. But he said that he saw him davening in the middle of the week, in the middle of the year, in the middle of thing, and he says the way he was crying in the middle of nothing, yeah, in the middle of like thing. He said that's what he was so impressed with the Chazon Ish said on the Or Sameach. So that's what Rabbi Yochanan is telling us. Don't forget Ma'ariv. Ma'ariv is also a very good time to daven. And obviously now you can understand what the next line is going to be. What's the next line going to be? Don't forget Shachris. Shachris is also very good. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak אמר, אף בתפילת שחריס שנאמר השם בוקר תשמע קולי בוקר ארוך לך ואצפי. So בקיצור, למעשה רבו ישראל, למעשה you should be careful in all the davenings. That's what comes out in the end. So it's not so fair. You started off by telling me you should be very careful in Mincha. Mincha is more important than everything else. But then you finish off by saying, yeah, but don't forget Ma'ariv and don't forget Shachris. So then what? So then b'kitzur, just be careful in all the davenings. That's the point. B'kitzur, that's the point. Just be careful in Shachris, Mincha, and Ma'ariv. But it still seems to be that Mincha still has something more special into it, as the Shulchan Aruch says. Maybe we'll say something from which I saw on Shabbos, which was very nice. I saw I think it's in the Targum Yonasan ben Uziel. He says that they brought, it says in Parshas Pekudei, they had to bring an offering to be mechateh the Mizbeach Hazav, or an offering, or Shemen HaMishcha. So Targum Yonasan ben Uziel says it was new. The Mizbeach was new. It was day number 1. So why do you have to atone for it? Why does it need atoning? Why does it need the purification? So he says because maybe somebody, when he brought it with the heart. It wasn't so pure. His heart was not so pure when he brought the money to build it. It wasn't with the nidvas alev. It wasn't with the right kavana, bringing the money to build it. But I think Rashi maybe even also says something like this somewhere. So the mashal from Rabbi Israel from Rojin. Rabbi Israel from Rojin, he says a beautiful mashal. The mashal goes like this. The mashal goes that there was two brothers. There were two brothers. And sure. There were two brothers, and they were good friends when they were young, but then they went into they had like a quarrel, like a fight, and they never spoke to each other. They had a faribel, they never spoke to each other. And one of them became very, very wealthy. Very wealthy. And whenever he was trying to make peace with his brother, which was still very poor, there was nobody to speak to. There was still nobody to speak to. He didn't want anything to do with him. And he became more and more wealthy until he became the most wealthy person in town. And B'Shah Tova Mutzlachas, his daughter got engaged. This rich man, his daughter got engaged, and she was about to get married. And he really wanted his brother to come to the wedding. And he sent him, he went to speak to him, he sent him messenger, he sent him letters, presents, nothing. His brother didn't want anything to do with him. And when the day of the wedding came, so there was a lot of people, everybody came, and there was a lot of food and music and guests and everything. And the brother that didn't want to come, he didn't live so far away from where the wedding took place. It wasn't so far, it was like 10 minutes walk. And he was quite depressed, he was quite down, he was quite sad. Everybody went, all his friends went, everybody went, and he stayed at home. And he just took like, what did he take? Took like vodka, whiskey. Yeah, he took like some alcohol and he was drinking until he passed out. And in the meantime, in the wedding hall, they brought the best music in the world, and they brought the best person to play the violin in the entire world. How do you say the canal? Violinist. And he brought the best one in the world. And this best violinist, he saw that the father of the bride was quite sad in the middle of the wedding. So he went up to him and said, "Why are you sad?" So he said, "Because my brother didn't come to the wedding." And he said, "Why didn't he come?" He said, "Because we haven't been speaking for like 20, 30 years and he doesn't want to speak to me." So he said, "Where is he?" He said, "No, it's not so far. It's like 10 minutes walk. The 10 minutes walk, I'm going to get him. Tell me the address. I'm going to bring him." So he said, "Okay, go." So he went, and he sees where he is. He sees the window, and he takes out the violin. He was the best violinist in the world, and he started playing. And the brother was passing out. He started hearing this beautiful music, and he wakes up and he hears, "Who is this beautiful music?" And he goes downstairs with his pajamas, and he sees this person playing. He was all, he was completely out, and didn't know what's going on, and he was like completely not here. And the violinist just started walking towards the hall, the wedding hall. And this brother in pajamas, he was drunk, he was walking after him with pajamas until they entered the wedding hall. When they entered the wedding hall, everybody saw he was drunk with pajamas. So he said, the father of the bride, he went up to him, he said, "Listen, you know how many times I invited you to come? I asked you to come. And you could have come and you could have sitting next to me in the wedding, I would have given you the best seat and the best food and the best everything, and you would get so much covered. And now look, now you're drunk with pajamas, everybody's looking at you. Look at the way you look." So that's the story. That's the mashal. And the Rojiner says, Rabbi Israel Mirojin says that anyway you're coming to daven, it doesn't have to be with davening, it can be really with any mitzvah, but anyway you're coming to daven, you're coming to daven anyway. So if you're already coming to daven, at least do it properly. Get the cover that you deserve for coming to daven, for coming to learn in Torah. But if you're coming to daven and I don't need to tell you, you with your WhatsApp, or you're speaking in the middle of davening, or you're coming late, or whatever it is, it can be by any mitzvah. So what's the point? You're already doing it, so do it properly. There was in the Baba Sali, when the Baba Sali, in the funeral of the Baba Sali, so there was a car, must have been 35 years ago already. There was a car, maybe even more, 36 years ago, 37 years ago. There was a car from Bnei Brak that had a car accident on the way to the funeral, on the way back. And everybody died. Everybody died in the car. Come on, Islam. And it was only like Avrechim or rabbis, and they all died in the way there, on the way back. Everybody died on the way. One car, yeah? One car. On the way to the Levi. I don't know if it was the way to the Levi or the way from back to the Levi. And there was a funeral. At the funeral, there was Rav Yaakov, I think the son of the Spinky Rebbe, I think died in that car accident. And anyway, there was a funeral for one of those tzaddikim. And Rav Yehuda Tzadka, Rav Yehuda Tzadka was the Rosh Yeshiva of Porat Yosef. Yeshiva Porat Yosef in the old city. Very old yeshiva. Rav Ovadia Yosef already learned there like 100 years ago. Rav Shalom Cohen is the Rosh Yeshiva today. So the Rav Yehuda Tzadka was the Rosh Yeshiva. And he spoke at the funeral. And he said like this. He said quite a famous mashal. He said, a person, whenever he does a mitzvah, he creates an angel. He creates an angel. But you have to understand that angel needs to have, so to speak, 248 limbs. Ivari. And you're going to come to Shamayim, and they're going to show you all the angels that you create. And one of them is missing a hand. One of them is missing a leg. One of them is missing a head. Yeah. one of them is missing a thing, because when you do a mitzvah not properly, then the angel which you created was not created properly. I think he spoke about the 100 blessing. The 100 blessing that David HaMelech was saying, and he's saying that when you say, anyway, you say a blessing. So at least when you say a blessing, at least say it properly. At least say it properly. You're creating an angel. Every blessing that you say, every time you say amen, you're creating an angel. Creating an angel, make sure that this angel is going to be thing. You know, the Chafetz Chaim writes in the introduction to Shmiras Halashon. He writes in the introduction to Shmiras Halashon, imagine Chas v'Shalom, a person goes to Shamayim forever and ever, and is mute. Chas v'Shalom. It's in the introduction to Shmiras Halashon, guard your tongue. Yeah, and he says to Shamayim after 120, this is forever and ever, for eternity. And they tell him, Chas v'Shalom, he has to be mute or deaf. Why? Because mute, because he spoke Lashon Hara. Or deaf, because he heard Lashon Hara. And this is for eternal. Imagine. He says this is just a person should imagine how much he should be careful not to speak Lashon Hara. And it's a very powerful thing when a person thinks about this. Yes, Rabbi.
Why did that Moshe say 10 particular Moshe said why was the buyer?
It's a good question. I think because they were speaking there about the 100th blessing. I think it was maybe because he was trying to encourage people to take on the 100. You know, David HaMelech, there was a plague. There was a plague in the days of David HaMelech, in the end of Sefer Shmuel Beis. Mamash in the end, the last chapter, it says there was a plague, and there was 100 people dying every day because of the plague. And David HaMelech went to ask Hashem, why is there such a plague? And Hashem said, well, I don't remember why we can say, but the remedy, David HaMelech says that for now on you should say 100 blessing every day. It's brought down in Shulchan Aruch in Simon Memvav, Sif Gimel, that a person should say 100 blessing every day. And that was because he saw there was 100 people that were dying every day.
Isn't it something to do with the census that he wasn't supposed to count?
חייב אדם לברך בכל יום 100 berachos לפחות. So the minion, the counting, but also I'll tell you another beautiful thing. Sheldon is saying it's also because of he went to count the people, but another beautiful thing, and I think Sheldon, I think this is the source, meaning the reason why Hashem tricked him to go and count so to speak, Hashem made him count the Jewish people, even though we all know it's Asu, because he did something else which was wrong, so to speak. What did he do which was wrong? He told the Shaul in Shmuel Aleph. He says, "Im Hashem esischa bi yarach mincha." He says, if Hashem turned you against me, David HaMelech, when he was running away from King Shaul, he was telling Shaul that if Hashem turned you against me, then I'm asking forgiveness. So Hashem got upset. Why are you saying that I turned him against you? Why you think I'm turning people against each other? Yeah, that's what I do. So this is what the Gemara in the end of berachos. Anyway, Rabbi Isai, let's just finish off. When I was saying the story now from the original, I was just thinking of another beautiful story. Rabbi Isai, another beautiful story. Simon, are you listening? Listen to this beautiful story. Maybe you know the story. There was a. I have to see if I remember this story. There was a guy that had two children. One child was married and he had a lot of money and he was very successful, and the other brother was not married and he was not so good about taking care of himself. And the father, he made a big wedding for another child or a grandchild overseas, and he sent his successful son, he sent him a check, and it said in this check you should buy clothes for your family and for your brother, clothes and take a haircut, whatever, and come to me for the wedding overseas. And the brother, he went with him and his wife and his kids, and he bought a lot of fancy clothes and he made sure to be ready, and he forgot his brother. And the last minute he remembered that he has to take his brother on the plane as well. And he took his brother, and when he got to the wedding, the brother which was not so successful, he didn't dress up so nicely. Yeah, he wasn't dressed up nicely for the wedding, and it caused a lot of busha, embarrassment for his father, because his father was very chashuv overseas, whatever it was. And the father was very upset. Why was he very upset? Because he said to the brother, which was successful, which was rich, he said, listen, if you would, and I think the story goes that he said that he will refund, not that he sent him a check, he said, I will refund you. I will pay you back for everything. He says, and now he says, I'm not paying you back. I'm not paying you back for all the expenses. The father says, I'm going to refund you with all the expenses. He says, I'm not. Why? Because when I sent you the request to come and I said, I'm going to pay back to everything that you spent, it was if you're going to do it for my kavod, for my honor, not for your honor. And now that you didn't think about your brother, so what does it show me? It shows me that you don't really care about me. Because if you would care about me, you would make sure not to embarrass me and you would make sure to dress up your brother nicely. But now that you didn't dress up your brother nicely, so it shows that you cared about yourself, you didn't care about me. And the nimshal is that Hashem says like this, if you care about me, so you should also look at your fellow Jew. You look at your fellow Jew and that will show that you care about me. But if you don't care about your fellow Jew, you only care about yourself, so that shows that you don't care about Hashem as well. You only care about yourself. Yeah, it's a similar with the wedding. Remind me with the wedding. All right, so thank you very much. Let's see you, Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow. Thank you very much. Be'ez Hashem, this week we'll do it quarter to 6, yeah? Thank you very much.